Welcome. This is Greg and Matt. I'm actually out here in Minneapolis and kind enough here to hook up with Matt to join me here. I thought with all the discussion on the new PAG policy work group that's issued their latest, I guess, what do they call that?
It's the report on IDX.
Yeah, report on IDX. That and Matt, you did a wonderful blog post on this that I'll link to on the blog here. But thought I'd have an opportunity, since I'm here, man. Wanted to talk to you directly and get your thoughts on the latest. I guess it's a version of the policy, right? It's not set in. Maybe you should explain that process first.
Well, the Presidential Advisory Group, or PAG, has created a policy recommendation. They've done some great work on a very difficult subject, trying to move the ball forward. Now they've put it out there well in advance of the NAR meetings in Anaheim. This is wonderful because it gives the community, you, me, MLS executives, everyone, a chance to talk about the gains that they made and some of the areas where we can improve. The next step is for the policy to move through various committees, the MLS committee and then the executive committee at NAR. That's my understanding anyway. And additional changes can be made. So we're not talking about a new policy yet. We're just talking about some recommendations, one step along the way toward a new IDX policy, an improved IDX policy.
Right. So, in your blog post you talked about, you thought that this finally rescinds the ability for franchisors to have listings, right? And a good thing?
Well, it takes franchisors out of the IDX picture. So no longer would franchises get a direct IDX feed. They are non-participants by definition. Non-participants like every other non-participant, such as the ones we think of, like Trulia and Zillow and Realtor.com. But there are many other non-participants, really everyone else in the world who wants the data. That once you allow one non-participant to get the data and make an exception, it might be difficult to stop other non-participants from requesting that same level of access. So I think it's a wonderful thing that they are suggesting that we rescind that policy that we passed last year and have franchises go through what everyone else goes through who's a third party, and brokers, I'm sure, will want to put their listings on these franchise websites because they provide great exposure. They're great sites.
And even something, I don't want to say as simple as like that issue, right? There's something that's even more that are more hairy, right? And that would be like the RSS, right? Talk to me about. It's a complicated subject, right? But the way that it stands now, what problems or concerns, or maybe you could describe a worst case scenario at the way that it's currently drafted, the RSS policy.
Sure. And again, there are many good things about the policy, and I tend to point out the negatives just because that's what we need to talk about. First, to understand what RSS is. It is a structured data feed. It can contain structured data, just like a REST server, except with an RSS feed, you don't have to log in. You don't have a password to get the data. That means that anyone can access the MLS data. In the worst case scenario, a broker or agent would put, let's just say they put all of the IDX listings into the RSS feed, and inside the RSS body they put all of the data fields and as some sort of structured data. And it's sort of assumed when it comes to an RSS feed that a consumer is going to, say, get an RSS feed just of the latest listings from a brokerage and have them show up in their Google Reader. But let's say a website where we don't think the listings belong could take that RSS and display that data why not? It's out there in the wild.
Yeah,
ready.
it's an unlicensed data feed from the MLS,
Yep.
really, right?
And
Yeah.
again, maybe it's not just a few of the broker's latest listings or agent's latest listings. Maybe it's all the IDX listings. So we just have to think about what we want RSS to do and try to build rules that accommodate what we want it to do and not what we don't want it to do.
Yeah, you got to feel for these guys on the committee, right?
Oh,
because
I feel
these are like really
amazing.
complicated issues, and it's hard to kind of come up with something that's narrow but broad. And
Right. If we, for instance, wrote into the policy that it was okay to put your listings not just on your website, but on Facebook, right? And then some new site came out tomorrow, we'd be revising the policy again. So instead of writing something really narrow, like you can put your listings on Facebook, they're trying to come up with broad policies that are going to work going forward, principles, kind of like we have in the Constitution. But just like in the Constitution, we have to figure out what's meant. And
Right.
interpreting that is really tricky. And in our industry, we don't exactly have a Supreme Court to appeal to. We have all these different MLSs trying to figure out how to interpret a broad rule. And what happens? Different MLSs interpret it differently, and brokers go crazy dealing with the different interpretations because they have to do business differently in different MLS markets. So I think it's amazingly tricky, the job that the Presidential Advisory Group is trying to do and the MLS Committee is trying to do. It's certainly, I don't envy them the work. And again, this conversation is geared toward helping, contributing toward the thinking there. There's no perfect answer on this.
Well, I mean, this is really short. Now, there's a lot of things we could talk about, but I know this is a big discussion. Some of my friends that are running franchisor websites, like Matt Kaufman over there at Real Living.
Sure.
And then I've been on an email thread with the board of directors for CMLS, and this is obviously something CMLS is kind of taking a look at. And this is cool, man. I appreciate you sitting down here and. It's a little bit of time here to kind of talk about some of the issues.
Sure. Glad to join you.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks for visiting Minneapolis.
All right.